everyone, I'm Ashley and today I'm going to be walking you through a quick but effective hip opening sequence. So just so you know, many of these poses can be pretty intense on the hip, especially the hip flexor and the IT bands. So I will be giving plenty of modifications. Take what feels good, leave what doesn't. Feel free to bring forth some props. You might need a block or a towel or a blanket for a little bit of extra support if the stretch is too intense. So if you prefer to utilize blocks or blankets or towels, make sure you have them nearby because they'll be a great option. So starting off, we're going to start in Baddha Konasana, butterfly pose. I'm going to invite you to bring your hands to the calf, the heel, or the foot. Straighten the spine. And let's just drop into our bodies. Let's take a few breaths here to consider how our body's feeling. Doing that quick body scan from the top of the head all the way down to the feet. You might want to flutter the butterfly wings here, or you might feel better with some stillness. It might be very tight. So if necessary, you can take the legs out a little bit longer in front of you, or just place the hands next to you if reaching forward is too much for you. You might also want to use a towel or a blanket for that grip if needed. And now I'm going to ask you to roll onto your back, taking the legs out, the feet out the width of the mat, bringing the knees into touch, and just windshield wipering the legs. You can bring your hands to a T or to a cactus, or they can be by your side. I like the cactus because you get a chest opening stretch as well. You might feel this here in the top of your quads, in your hip, in your low back, multiple places where you could be feeling this stretch. And just remember to breathe through it and really set the tone for the rest of our practice today. And then finding stillness, we're going to hug both of the knees in, maybe rocking from side to side and massaging the low back, maybe finding organic movement, circling the knees around. One more breath here. And then I'll invite you to pull the right leg into the chest and letting the left leg go long. If you feel any tightness, feel free to not pull the leg, to just bring it to where you need. But if you have more flexibility here, please pull it in to where it feels good for you. And you might even take half happy baby here, pulling it out towards the armpit, pulling that knee out towards that armpit and getting that length in the inner thigh. A few twists of the ankle to loosen up all parts of the leg while we're here. And when you're ready, taking that knee and wrapping it over the chest towards the left. If this feels good for you, you can stay here. If you want to go a little deeper, you can make sure that the foot touches the ground and that the right arm goes out wide and the head turns to the right. Breathing into the low back and that IT band, really waking that up for the first time today. About 10 more seconds here, breathing at your own pace and breathing through the stretch. Before we bring it back into center. And we'll do the same thing on the left, bringing the left knee in and allowing the right leg to go long. Bringing that knee in as far and as close to your chest as is comfortable, and rolling the ankle. And when you're ready, maybe going out for a half happy baby out towards the left armpit. Stretching the inner thigh, waking up the hips from all angles. And And bringing that left leg over to the right, as done on the other side, wherever is comfortable for you. Considering maybe one side feels more tight than another. Considering also that as humans, we store a lot of trauma and emotion in our bodies, specifically in our hips. We're also on our legs and utilizing our hips all day, every day. So they can get very tight. So just be gentle with yourself if one side is tighter than the other, or if both are tighter than you expected. We're gonna breathe both legs back into the chest. And we're gonna plant the feet on the mat, bringing them in an inch or two away from the glutes, placing our hands at our side, and we're gonna wake up the back body with a few bridge poses. So when you're ready, inhale, exhale, and lift the glutes. While here, you want to be really waking up the back body, engaging all the muscles in the back while opening up the hip flexors. If this is a little much on you, you can always slide a block in between the ground and your back and rest on that block, which may provide a little bit more support, especially if you have a low back issue like an L4, L5 type of issue. You might feel a lot of pressure here. Squeezing the inner thighs in towards each other and keeping the neck relaxed. And we're going to gently lower down one vertebra at a time. I invite you to go through one breath cycle of inhale and exhale, and then we will do it again. On your next exhale, lifting up. If you'd like more of a stretch, you can always interlace the fingers underneath your bottom and push even more towards the ceiling through those hip flexors, really extending them. And if your hands are interlaced, please uninterlace them, place them flat, and then lower back down one vertebra at a time. Hugging the knees in one last time. Maybe you start to rock, and maybe you're able to find your way up to tabletop. If this is too much on you, you can roll onto your side and push yourself up and roll through to tabletop. We're gonna start here going through a sequence of cat and cow. So inhaling, dropping the belly, lifting the gaze. Exhaling, going the opposite way. So dropping the head and lifting the spine and the belly button towards the ceiling. Go ahead and match movement with breath. Cycling through a few more rounds at your own pace. Maybe finding some organic movement in the hips, leaning into each side, leaning backwards and forwards, whatever is feeling right for you today, and then finding stillness. We're going to start with gate pose. So you're going to kickstand out the left leg. The right leg will extend long, and the right arm will peel up. If you'd like to find the stretch in your chest, then keep the line of energy going from one hand to the next, from the ground to the ceiling. If you'd like to open up the side body more, extend the hand overhead, where the line of energy goes from the front of the room down to your foot. 2 more breaths here, and gently release and come back to tabletop. We're going to do the other side. So kickstand out the right foot, extend the left, and peel the left arm up. Again, keeping the arms straight in this way to open the chest, or extending the left arm overhead to get more of a stretch in the side body. You should feel a gentle stretch in the hip flexor as well. If you ever want to challenge yourself, you can lift that top leg. But for today, we're gonna keep it pretty gentle. And we're gonna turn back to all fours. Now, I invite you to have your big toes touching, taking your knees out wide, and coming back into a child's pose. If this stretch is a lot on your low back, feel free to take a block, place it under you, and put your head on top of that block, gaining some leverage and support there. You can also make fists with your hands, or you can stretch the arms out long. Just a few more breaths here, 10 more seconds. And we will be meeting in downward dog when you're ready. Tucking the toes and pushing ourselves up for our first downward dog of the day. Now I invite you to pedal into the feet, push the heels down. Maybe you push the toes up, making sure all 10 fingers are spread wide and pushed into the earth strong. Look forward and walk to the front of your mat. Inhale and find a flat back. Hands can come to the calves or the thighs. Finding that flat back, exhale, fold. Inhale, rise all the way up, arms up, eyes up to touch. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, arms up, eyes up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. We're going to go into plank and run through our chaturanga. If chaturanga and upward dog is too much for you, please feel free to drop the knees, come all the way down to the belly, and lift up into cobra. If not, we'll run through chaturanga and I will see you in downward facing dog. From here, let's gently lift the right leg and flip our dog, kicking the heel towards the buttocks and maybe taking a few wide circles with the knee if that feels okay. And then we're gonna walk the right leg through and meet in a low lunge. You can drop that left knee, sit up straight. What you wanna do to protect the low back is to engage the glutes and engage the thighs. Do not lean in with your back. You want a strong core. We're gonna inhale the arms up overhead, dropping the shoulders, relaxing your face, relaxing those muscles in the jaw. Core is strong. You might feel the tension in the left hip flexor as we move through these poses. Anytime that the stretch becomes too much, feel free to meet in tabletop on all fours or in child's pose. We're gonna place the hands framing the right foot. We're gonna pick up that back leg and at the same time peeling up the right arm for a gentle twist, really waking up the entire body here. And then we'll bring the arms in. Both arms are on the inside of the right leg. We're gonna take the right leg out wide, as wide as the mat, and drop the left for lizard pose, lizard lunge. If you need more of a stretch, you can drop down to your elbows. You can play with pushing out the right knee, rolling onto the outside of the right foot, or you can just stay as is. You're stretching both the left hip flexor and the right hamstrings and IT band in this pose. You might even be able to look back and grab the left heel. And when you're ready, you're gonna walk that foot back into plank and go through your flow, whether it's chaturanga or knees, tummy, cobra. Take a few breaths here. Really taking on how that felt on the right side and trying to be cognizant of how it feels on the left as we go through the stretches on the left side. So kicking up that left leg, flipping the dog, and circling the hip just a few times before kicking the leg through to low lunge and inhaling the arms up overhead. Remembering to keep that core strong and your spine protected, glutes engaged, thighs engaged. Hands will come down to frame the left foot, back leg lifts, left arm lifts. Simple twist. 2 breaths here before moving into lizard pose. Dropping that right leg, making sure both hands are inside the left leg. And again, pushing the left knee out if you need, rolling onto the outside of the left foot, bringing arms down to elbows, wherever you feel comfortable. We're going to bring that left leg back to plank and go through our flow and meet once again in downward facing dog. Sending that left leg back into your plank, lowering halfway, inhaling upward facing dog, exhaling into downward facing dog. Raise that right leg. Now we're going to bring it through, right knee to right wrist for half pigeon. In this pose, there's many ways that you can stretch out the hip. You can sit up straight like this and feel the stretch on the underside, or you can start to lean over and feel it go all the way up the leg and even into that left hip flexor. If you need a block, you can put a block under you for leverage. You can even place a towel or a blanket under the right leg so that you can set on that if needed. We're gonna stay here for about 30 seconds. Continue to breathe. Breathing away any tension in that hip flexor, in that IT band. And when you're ready, coming up and kicking that foot all the way back up to elevated and then meeting in downward facing dog. So here it is, elevated for a counter stretch and then drop. Really stretch into the back here. Now that we've woken up the hips, you might find more flexibility and mobility in your downward dog. So you want to work on stretching out the shoulders and really rooting down through your palms and pushing that earth away from you. Pushing that belly button towards the back of the room. And then lifting the left leg and again through for pigeon. If necessary, you can even take a pillow, putting the pillow under the left leg for that support. You could have a block in front of you holding you up, or if you're very flexible, you can go all the way down with arms fully extended in front of you on the ground. You might feel a lot more tension in this side, or you may have felt it more in the right. We tend to favor one hip over the other when we're standing and conversing and doing chores. You lean into a hip, and that can cause tightness as well. And when you're ready, again, we're gonna hit that counter pose, swinging the leg back up, and then meeting in downward facing dog. From here, hop, walk, float, however you want to the top of your mat. And we're gonna do ragdoll. So have a slight bend in the knees, belly and chest can come to the thighs, and let your arms and your head hang heavy. When you're ready, we're gonna rise all the way up, one vertebra at a time. Arms up, eyes up to touch. Exhale, hands to heart center. We've gone through the majority of our hip opening poses for the day. So I invite you to sit in Baddha Konasana or cross-legged, and from there, roll onto the back for Supta Baddha Konasana, which is a reclined butterfly pose. This pose gives you protection if you have a lower back injury. And if Shavasana tends to hurt your lower back on the flat, when you're flat on the ground, you can always find this, or you can find, put your legs the way you would in bridge so that your back is flush against the ground for more support. For now though, we'll do Supta Baddha Konasana, placing the right hand on the belly and the left hand on the heart. We'll cycle through just a few breaths before moving into Shavasana. And while you're here, think about how the poses are feeling on your body. Doing another full body scan from the head all the way down to the toes. Seeing if your hips feel more open and malleable than they did before. Letting the poses really sink into your body. Releasing any traumas and emotions that might be wanting to come forward through the stretching and releasing of the hips. And giving yourself gratitude for showing up to your mat today. And when you're ready, I invite you to straighten your legs and your arms, moving into Shavasana. And I'm gonna walk you through just a little bit of simple breath work before we close out. Inhaling, closing the eyes, or if that's too much, finding a drishti, a focal point that feels comfortable for you to look at and focus on. Inhaling, thinking about your body and how grateful you are for this vessel that you're in. Exhaling vocally, sighing it out. Inhaling once more. Exhaling, sighing it out. Now we're going to do a triangle breath. So inhale for 4. Hold for 4. And exhale for 4. One more triangle breath. Inhale. Hold. And exhale. When you're ready, you can roll onto your side, your favorite side, and then gently push yourself up to a seated position. And I want to say thank you so much for joining me today in this hip opening practice. Namaste.